Hey guys, welcome back. So today's project is this Coleman Powermate Pulse 1850. This is one of 3 generators that Stanley, a local supporter of the channel, gave me, and I would say this one is in the best condition. From looking at it, it looks like it was stored indoors. There's nothing broken or missing, and I'm told it runs and makes power, but the last time it ran, it was surging and leaking oil. So there are some issues going on here. Hopefully nothing too serious, but before digging in too far, I think the best thing to do is just get it started and see where we're at. There's already fuel in the tank, so let's double check the oil and try to start it. Yeah, there's plenty of oil, maybe a touch low, but it should be fine for testing. I was actually hoping this would be a little overfilled. That would explain the oil leak. On these Briggs, these caps, they don't have any kind of a O-ring or a seal. So if the oil is overfilled, a lot of times it'll weep out this cap. And I do see, signs of oil in this area. So it could still be the cap as opposed to an oil seal. But I guess we won't know until we dig in a little more. Anyway, let's get the fuel on and try to start it. Yeah, that carb, it does have issues. I had to choke it about halfway to get it to kind of smooth out. But the good news is it makes power. It could support a 1500 watt load. And I don't see oil actively leaking anywhere. So I don't think there's really anything major going on here. Now, the voltage and the engine speed were kind of on the low side of okay. So that is something I'm going to have to deal with. But for now, let's get this up on the bench. We'll get the carburetor off and cleaned up and go from there. Gonna pull this cover off and the one on the other side too. I want to get a better look at the block just to see where this oil is coming from. It's hard to say. There's a lot of oil kind of from the governor down, and then it goes over to the bottom of the stator as well. So I think I'm just going to spend a second, clean most of that off, and then just kind of monitor the situation. Also, we are missing feet on this side of the generator, which I kind of noticed when running this engine. It was kind of like a jackhammer on the cement floor. So yeah, those need to be replaced. Might as well get this replaced while we're here. So that is about the same height, I think, as the original. Let's get this out of the way for now and move on to that carburetor. All right, let's have a look inside. I'm not expecting this one to be too bad since the engine was running, but that bowl nut actually was pretty loose. And the carb was pretty loose too, and taking it off, the bolt on the left side was barely torqued down, so it could have had a vacuum leak. Yeah, it looks fairly clean. The fuel that came out, though, does not look good. I think I see a lot of water in there, so I'm going to set this aside. We'll just let it settle a bit, but I think we are dealing with a water issue. Anyway, we've got the carb apart. You know, I'm sure water isn't the only problem, so we'll clean it up. That's pretty much it. The emulsion tube on this is not removable. The idle set screw, I'm just going to leave in place. That does not need to be removed. And actually, I see a jet right here. That must be the pilot circuit. Let's get that out. Okay, and now that's it. The carb's ready to be soaked. The fuel needs to be changed out on that machine. You can see the water line. It's actually pretty hard, but if I zoom in, if you look closely, right near the top, I think that's the water line. So yeah, fuel needs to be changed out, and I guess we'll do the oil while we're at it. Wow. I was not expecting the fuel to look like this. Usually, I separate the water from the fuel, filter the fuel, and reuse it. But in this case, yeah, I don't think it's even going to go through the filter. It's just going to clog up immediately. So all the stuff needs to be recycled. And even though it stopped coming out of the tank, there's more in there. These plastic tanks, they have a rubber bushing holding the fuel outlet in where the fuel line connects to. And that extends into the tank about 1/4 of an inch, and fuel can't get over that. So I'm going to tip the generator, try to get as much out as I can, and then I'm going to have to use some towels to soak up the rest. You can see when I hold the fuel up to the light, you can see the water on the bottom there. And the top part is actually very hazy, so that is full of water. And if I let it sit long enough, I may actually yet salvage this fuel. So I'm going to set it aside. We'll see if any of that comes out of suspension. I stand corrected. This tank's a little bit better than most as far as its design. Usually it's a flat bottom, so there's 1/4 inch of fuel across the whole tank. But in this case, there is a kind of a valley or a depression right around the fuel outlet. So as a result, there's not much fuel left in there. So I'm just going to soak that out and get some fresh fuel in there. Got to be careful. The fuel filter is in the bottom of the tank, so you don't want to rip it off with this tool. Got to put some fresh ethanol-free fuel back in the tank. Thanks, Dave, for picking up 5 gallons of the good stuff. Yeah, I want to say it cleaned up well, and it did, but it doesn't look that way. There's a lot of corrosion on the body, and I think this carburetor used to be painted black at one point. And this side here, this is concerning. I thought originally this might have been old gasket material, but it's not. You know, it's either a bad casting or corrosion, or maybe a little bit of both. So hopefully the gasket will make a good seal. Otherwise, I might need to use a bit of RTV. Anyway, let's get this together. See if it works any better. Good. The gasket that was on there doesn't look great. You know, I think it is usable, but given how bad the surface is on the carb, I'm going to use a new gasket instead. I think that's it for now. Let's get it started just for a few seconds. Make sure the carb issues are sorted out. Actually, let's skip the quick test. The last time I ran this, the carburetor had issues. Hopefully that issue is sorted out. The airbox is not installed, so it might still run a little bit lean. Now, the voltage, when I loaded this to 1500 watts, the voltage did sag to 111 volts, and that's low. Ideally, it should be 114 volts or above. So this does not have an AVR. The only way to bring that voltage up is to increase the engine speed, which I think we can do. This was only running at 60.5 hertz without a load, so I can easily and safely bring that up to 61.5 hertz, even 62 hertz without a load, and that should resolve the voltage issues. And once that's done, I'll just let it run for a while. Make sure it's not leaking. I'm going to run it right here on the driveway, so that way if any oil does start dripping out, it should be pretty apparent. Let's say the carburetor issues are sorted out. The engine's running pretty well, although I do see a drop here. Potentially the needle might be letting a little extra fuel in the carb, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. As far as the engine speed goes, usually the set screw, you drive it in to increase the speed. So that's what I was trying to do, and it wasn't working. So I loosened the wing nut, and then it let all the tension off that governor spring. So this one works a little bit backwards from most. This sets the max speed by backing it out, and then you just push this against it and tighten the wing nut. But it is fully maxed out. There is no more adjustment in this, and I'm not really getting the speed I want out of it. I'm still at around 61 hertz, and I want to be closer to 61.5, maybe 62. So the only way to fix this, I think, is to probably let the tension off, bend this tab a little to the right, and then reset that engine speed. think we're in pretty good shape. The generator is only rated at 1500 watts, and this space heater actually pulls slightly more than that, and I was able to maintain voltage of 114 volts, so I think we're good there. The engine speed, it's now at about 62 hertz, and of course the carburetor continues to run well, but it is dripping very slowly, so the seat does need to be replaced. And as far as the oil goes, I mean, I haven't seen any sign of a leak, so I think we're pretty much good to go. So let me get that seat ordered up, we'll get that installed, clean this thing up, and finish putting it together. Got the new needle and seat, genuine Briggs part, courtesy of Amazon, as well as a new bowl gasket. So I'm going to do the easy thing, or at least try to, which is just dropping the bowl while the carburetor is installed, swap out those parts, and should be good to go. Nope, not going to happen. This bracket's in the way, so we'll get the carb off. And to get the seat out, it's kind of hard to see in there, but you do need a specialized tool made by Briggs & Stratton, but there are other ways to do it. You could use your wife's crochet hook, although that may not go over too well, or a pick. You know, in my case, I use a drywall screw, and you want to be careful because you don't want to actually dig into the carb itself, but you want to use the threads to just kind of grab the seat on the inner diameter, just like maybe a quarter turn, and you should be able to pull it out. Should be able to pull it out. Like that. Just take note, this seat, it's not the same on both sides. One side has a ridge going around, and on the other side it is smooth. And that is the side you want toward the needle, and the side with the ridge goes down toward the carburetor body. Now, there is this tool, of course, to install this properly, but the correct size drill bit will do the same. That's it. So this needle, the old needle, I doubt it's bad, but it's part of the kit, so we'll swap that out. Do a quick test like this. You should hear no air coming out. And I don't. So that should seal. Let's turn the fuel on and give it a few minutes. I think we're in good shape. It's been a few minutes and we're perfectly dry. So I'm going to put on the air box and the covers, clean this up real quick, and we'll bring it back outside. Yeah, there is still an issue here. In the course of about 5 minutes, I've seen 3 drips. Not much. And given that it's a new needle and seat, I tend to think that's not the issue. Potentially the needle alignment is just a bit off. I've tried banging it and I don't think it's made much of a difference, but potentially the engine running could shake things into place. So I'm going to leave the airbox off for now. But I will turn this around, put the other cover on, finish cleaning it up, and then try it like this. I think just cleaning this, kind of turning it around and shaking it a bit, might have done it. It's 6 minutes now. I haven't seen any drips, but I'll leave the airbox off anyway until I've run it a bit. Well, I'd say that did it. I left the fuel valve on all night and most of the day. It's about an hour till sunset, and things are nice and dry. So I'm going to throw the airbox back on, bring it back out for one last run, make sure I didn't mess anything up when reinstalling that carburetor. About to lose the sun. So let's get this started. I've got the oscilloscope hooked up so we can see the sine wave output. This is brushless, so the output's going to be very dirty, especially with no load. And once I apply a load, it'll clean up some, but it'll still be dirty output. Well, guys, that's about it. This one was pretty straightforward. It was fuel related, from the tank down to the carburetor, and everything else was good, other than a little bit of cleaning. This generator, I can tell, it's been well cared for most of its life, and I did find the date code on this. I think it was made in '99, so that would put this at about 23 years old. So it's doing pretty well, and the engine sounds good, so I think it'll run for quite a bit longer. Anyway, this is the first of several generators that Stanley gave to me, and definitely this one's in the best shape. The other two, yeah, they're going to be much more challenging, so those videos will be coming in the weeks to follow. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.